Sydney City has built a number of cyclepaths, and I'm going to be telling you about the one on Bourke Rd in Alexandria, which you can see here on the map. It's not too far from Sydney Park. Well, here we are, cycling on the path, heading in the southward direction. You can see that we're quite safe, separated from the cars. But what's this up ahead? It looks like a bus stop stuck right in the middle of the cycle path, and wow, look, we have to joggle around the back of the bus stop onto the footpath where the pedestrians go, and then back into the straight again. That's a bit weird, don't you think? Now we've just jumped ahead 40 seconds because it was a bit boring. I cut that bit out. But you can see up ahead there's another of these bus stops, and we're going to have a closer look at this bus stop because it has a particular meaning for me. And notice how there's a big advertising board on this side which completely blocks the view of the path down on the other side, which is going to be very significant. Now let's just pull over. And now I'm just walking backwards because I've seen a rider coming from the other direction. If you look past the bus stop, you might just see him approaching. At a certain point he disappears behind this advertising sign, and then he pops out on our side of the bus stop. Now I'm just going to walk back to the bus stop, go around the back and look back up the track, and notice you can't see that rider that went past. You can't see anything. That advertising sign is totally blocking the view. And now, just jumping over the side of the track, one more preliminary bit of information. Pedestrians walk through here, as you see these two do, and they're followed shortly after by a bike, which has avoided them, of course. And now you see a guy coming from the other direction, coming towards me. Now for the punchline. On that fateful day, I was approaching the bus stop. I saw a pedestrian coming from the other direction, a girl who was walking on her side of the path correctly, and I was concentrating on not running into her, when a guy appeared right in front of me from out of nowhere. Well, in fact, it wasn't from out of nowhere, but he had pulled into my lane to overtake the girl, and he couldn't see me and I couldn't see him because of the advertising sign, and we collided almost head on. I took most of the impact with my left shoulder. We both sprawled to the ground and got multiple grazes, and when we got up I could see, I think I came off worse. I'd snapped the front forks on my bike and buckled the wheel and burst the tyre, and I had to stagger home, and that left shoulder was pretty sore for the next 6 weeks. Now I'd just like to point out that this advertising board, which caused all the problems, is not actually part of the bus shelter. It's actually located a couple of metres away from the shelter, not connected with it in any way. It doesn't really act as a wind barrier. It's just purely there as an advertising board, and it blocks the view. In fact, there are 4 bus shelters on this part of Bourke Rd, and the 4th one, down near Campbell Road, has no advertising board for some reason. And as you can see here, the view is unobstructed. It's perfectly clear both ways. Being a good citizen and not wanting to see the same accident repeated by somebody else in the future, I wrote to the council and told them how badly designed their cycleway was and explained what had happened to me. And I did eventually get an answer after about a month, and they initially showed concern. Someone even rang me to see how I was, and they said they were going to go and inspect the site. And a couple more emails and nothing really happened, and I waited a long time actually, and I wasn't getting a reply to emails. So finally, on about the first anniversary of the accident, I sent an email to Clover Moore, who was the Lord Mayor of the council, and nearly 3 months later I got a reply. I'll read a few extracts from the letter, which is from the CEO on behalf of the Lord Mayor. I was very concerned to hear about your crash, and I asked the City of Sydney staff to investigate. I hope you are recovering well. City staff carried out a detailed rider safety investigation at each of the 4 bus stops along the Bourke Rd cycleway, including the bus stop where you collided with another rider. The investigation concluded that sufficient rider safety treatments are in place on the cycleway at all 4 bus stops. Under the heading of advertising signs, Having a safe and accessible public domain is very important to the city. All bus stops with the advertising signs have been subject to a development application, DA, etc., etc. City staff have carefully reviewed the location of the advertising screen at the bus stop and determined that it is compliant. So the council has concluded there is no problem. This is not good enough. I work in the rail industry where there are many hazards and we have to reduce the risk of harming people so far as is reasonably practicable. We evaluate risk using a matrix like this, which weighs the consequence of a hazard against the risk of it occurring, and we want to land on a green square if at all possible. If this matrix were used, I cannot see how the advertising screen at the bus stop could be acceptable. In my particular crash, we got off pretty lightly. My injuries might be rated as a moderate consequence or a C4, but it could easily have been far more serious with smashed teeth, broken bones, ruptured organs or worse, which would have been a major or C3. As for likelihood, very unlikely means once in 10 to 100 years. The accident has already happened once and there is no reason to think it will not happen again for 100 years. This is an unmanaged risk, but the real point is that it is an unnecessary risk. The advertising screen could be removed, like at the Campbell Road bus stop, or it could be reduced in height or stuck up higher. It is there for commercial reasons only, and is not there for the sake of the passengers. So my conclusion is that this is a psychopathic cycle path. The City of Sydney Council has not taken all steps to ensure the safety of users. I think it is safer to ride on the road, and I hope no other city builds a cycle path like this.